Hey, health junkies! It's time for the Health Fix. Join your host, Dr. Janine Krause, as she gives you a dose of what you need to know and do right now to take control of your health from the inside out, to rebel against aging, look damn good, fight stress, and laugh every day.
Hey, health junkies! Welcome to another episode of the Health Fix. I'm your host, Dr. Janine Krause, and today we're going to be talking about one of the things that pretty much all of us ignore, but is crucial to our overall health and mobility. It's our feet. Maybe you think they're ugly, you know, those 5 toes, maybe one's longer than the other, maybe you have one that's shorter than the other, maybe you have a pinky toe like mine that just can't seem to grow a nail. So I feel like I should get a discount when I get a pedicure because there's really 8 nails, not 10, that they're working on. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers, right? So nevertheless, let's talk a little bit about your feet, because about 50% of the time in my practice, I go down to someone's feet and I'm going, you know, okay, you've got chronic back pain, but we can't seem to work things out. We can't seem to get your glutes to release. We can't seem to get your iliopsoas, so that hip flexor muscle, to release. What the heck's going on? I go down and wiggle their toes. Their toes don't move. And so I played the little game, wee, all the way home with all of their little toes. And guess what? Their toes aren't moving. And there's just crunchy stuff on the bottom of their foot. Well, a lot of times, if our feet aren't moving, that stiffness reverberates all the way up to our back, even up into our neck. So interestingly enough, in Chinese medicine, one of the points to work on your back ends up being on your feet. There's another one that's actually at the base of your skull that works on your whole back and even on your feet. And so what does that tell you? It's all stinking connected. As much as we like it or not, there you have it. So about half of the pain conditions I see tend to take a side. Have you ever noticed that? Do you have a bad side? Like, oh, I just keep hurting my right side. So for example, I'll give you a little case of mine. Mine is the right side. I'm a right-sided injury kind of person. About 3 years ago, I fell skiing and I hurt my right knee. I strained some ligaments in that knee. And then a year later, and a couple months pretty much to the T, I sprained my right ankle. And I thought I broke it. It was pretty ridiculous. It was very swollen, such a mess. Me trying to walk on my hands at 40 years old. Hey, you know, some things... my dad would say some things never change, but for me, I was trying to, you know, keep that fountain of youth going, which is, of course, the whole premise of this podcast. But where am I going with this? I'm going with the case that about 50% of pain conditions really take a side. And so one of the things I want you to think about and think way, way back, did you ever hurt your foot? Did you ever get a really big blister? Now, I know this seems lame, but sometimes the maybe benignness or the mellowest of injuries can actually cause quite an issue on down the road for you. So I might have said this probably quite a few different times. As a naturopathic doctor, my job is to investigate, to figure out what caused your issue. Why do you have pain? And I like to kind of sleuth it all out, and I go way back. I'm like, can you remember falling off the monkey bars as a kid? So looking back, I want you to spend a moment right now and kind of look back and go, okay, if you have chronic back pain or you have chronic leg pain or knee pain, whatever it may be, I want you to go back and go, okay, is this your side? Is this the side that tends to get injured? And think about what happened way back when you were a kid. And think about dumb stuff like blisters. A lot of people, if I go back in time with them, a lot of times things start with a blister because they started walking weird. And you know where the biggest places that cause blisters are? They're on your feet. Not necessarily your hands. Your hand blisters don't tend to cause any issues, you know, other than they're painful. But the feet, the heels. So trying to squeeze yourself into a pair of shoes that are too tight, ladies. Or in my husband's case, he's trying to break in a pair of Nikes that he's had for 2 years. I don't know how that's working out for him, but they give him blisters. So maybe you have that favorite pair of shoes that you really love, but they give you blisters. Yeah, that's not doing you any favors. Don't be a slave to fashion. Find a different pair of shoes. There's plenty of them out there. But think of it this way. Something as benign as a blister can cause you to walk differently. And it reverberates up the whole body. And these are issues. And when you have a blister or any type of damage on your foot, even think of like an ingrown toenail, think of stubbing your toe. It's going to throw your whole body off of balance because you really do use your feet for everything. They're your balance, they're your mobility, they're your foundation. And so most of us don't think about our feet. We get that 5-minute foot massage in the massage therapist's office, and oh, it feels so good. And then it goes on, the massage therapist goes on to work on your legs and your back and, trying to work, spending most of the visit getting those knots out. Well, I think we should be twisting it around a little bit and working a little more on our feet. Because if I can get foot mobility to open up, and I can get a lot of those adhesions in the foot opened up, the body does a lot better. The back pain goes away. So I want you to think about this again, back through life. And I talked about blisters. What about, have you done anything in terms of walked around in a shoe with a pebble in it? The reason I'm saying this is I find this common with marathon runners, and myself included. I ran the whole Denver Rock and Roll Marathon, I think it was 2012, 2010, must have been 2010, with a pebble in my shoe. I couldn't be bothered to stop to take my shoe off. It wasn't like I was qualifying for Boston or anything here, folks. I probably finished at like 4 hours and 20 minutes. What is that, an hour behind the Boston qualifier? Yeah, I'm no athlete in that department. But I was too dumb to pull that shoe off. So think about times that you've done that. Or think about a shoe that just feels weird or feels like it has a pebble in it, but you can't seem to find that elusive pebble. Yeah, get rid of this stuff. It is not worth it for you. Same thing goes with shoes that feel cramped if they're too tight. They're blocking your motion in there. If you have any shoes that you notice or you just notice your foot goes numb in particular, it could be the shoe. And so major take home today is looking at your shoes. Another big thing here that I see is I have a lot of folks that use the wrong shoes for workouts. In particular, I see a lot of folks running with Chuck Taylors or Vans on. What the heck are you doing? Those are not running shoes. Don't do that. That's bad for you. Those shoes are made to literally work on lifting or pretty much skateboarding or chilling. Those are not meant to be running in. Don't run with those kind of shoes. Another biggie that I love, don't get me wrong, is flip-flops. Flip-flops are the easiest, peasiest shoes in the universe. They're my go-to when I jump in the car and run somewhere and I come back. But you can't be walking around in them things for long distance. And unfortunately, if you go to Vegas is hilarious. You've got all kinds of people with flip-flops walking miles and miles because all them darn hotels are like illusions. They look like they're right next door to each other. And next thing you know, you've walked like 8 miles. And so now you have blisters and flip-flops. Okay, I'm going on and on. But flip-flops, big issue because they tighten up the front of your calf because you have to curl your toe up to hold that flip-flop on. And I don't know how many people end up with foot pain and toe pain. So pain like right on the instep, the top of their foot, and in between their toes from chronic flip-flop wear. So another big issue. And ladies, there are some shoes that are like slide shoes where the toes are exposed and we have like a little wedge and we don't have any straps in the back. I'm not a shoe designer. I don't know shoes particularly, but you know what I'm saying. You get you slide your foot in there and you've got your toes exposed. Those shoes too, we have to curl our toes up to keep those on. So shoes are important. That's moral of the story today, but I will get back to details in terms of what the heck we're going to do about all of these poor shoes and footwear choices we make, because unfortunately a lot of us are either walking around with little coffins that are squeezing our feet, or we're walking around with the wrong shoes for what we're doing. So keep that in mind. Also keep in mind all of the injuries you've had to your feet and which side of the body, and see if you connect your pain or your issues you've had in life with that side. So just take a moment, think about that. And now we're going to move on to the did you know part. So there's a lot of things we don't know about our feet in terms of how much impact they take. So like 1 mile run, that's only 1 mile, imparts several tons of pressure on the foot. That's kind of crazy. Even 1 mile walk is going to put a lot of pressure on your foot. If any of you out there have a Fitbit, you are going to be tracking your miles and you'll see how much you move on that with that Fitbit. I average about 6 to 7 miles a day just walking around my office in general. And so that's a lot of pressure on the foot. Now think about this. We have 26 bones in our foot. That's a quarter of all of our bones in our body. And we have 33 joints in our foot. That's a big deal because that's a lot of joints that need to be kept moving. If they don't move, we don't move well. We also have over 100 muscle, tendons, and ligaments in our feet. That's crazy. That is a lot of moving parts. literally. And so these are things that I like to put into perspective for my patients because, you know, we think about the glutes, we think about the back muscles, we think about the hamstrings, but then it seems that after that and maybe the neck, we really don't think about anything else. Our feet are the number one ignored part of our body that really needs a lot of TLC. All right, so now I've built the case for why you need to pay attention to your feet. And there's some research out there that shows the benefits of working on your feet. In particular, probably the biggest study that was done was by the Journal of Bodywork and Movement back in 2015. And they did a study where these people were using lacrosse balls and tennis balls to increase their lumbar, so their back, and their hamstring flexibility, but they were doing it using the bottom of their feet, not hammering into their hamstrings. So let's think about this for a minute. I talk about putting the lacrosse ball at the origin, which is like your attachment point for your muscle. And then, of course, the other attachment point is going to be the insertion. The origin is the fixed end of the muscle. It's that part that doesn't really move. It just kind of holds the muscle stable. Now, a lot of times I talk about putting the lacrosse ball into your glutes and putting the lacrosse ball at the origin of your hamstrings, which is kind of like where your butt fold comes down there. And, you know, it can be great to release the hamstring and the low back, but sometimes I'll have people do that and they're like, oh my gosh, nothing's releasing. It really hurts. I'm not getting any better. That's when you have to go to the feet. And in fact, save yourself time and go to the feet first. In fact, save yourself even more time and feet first and work all the way up your body. Because going back to the details on the foot, there's a lot going on in there. There's 33 joints after all, and over 100 muscles, tendons, and ligaments. That's a lot. That's a lot in a concentrated small area. Well, depending on how big your feet are, let's say that. I have size 4.5. I kid you not. My feet are dinky. I don't know what happened. They're like little duck feet because they're super wide. So that's a small area for me. But lacrosse balls can be absolutely useful in this case. I don't often recommend tennis balls because they're just too soft. I don't think they get in there enough. But if you're a newbie to this, start with a tennis ball and ease yourself in. You can also use a golf ball here too. Golf balls are great because they can also get into smaller spots if you've got a certain area. So you've probably all heard of reflexology or Chinese foot massage or something of that nature. And this is really cool because not only can you access parts of your tendons and ligaments that are in your feet to help release your whole body and your back in particular, you can also help with organ movement. And I know that sounds weird. You're like, why do I want my organs to move? Well, okay, you don't really want your organs to necessarily move too far, but you want them to be able to be healthy and have blood flow move through them. And the Chinese idea here of acupressure or foot reflexology is all getting blood flow moving. And if you take a lacrosse ball to the bottom of your foot, and you don't even have to have a reflexology map. However, I am going to include that in my show notes on my website at drjkrausend.com. So head over there if you want to look at the reflexology map. I mean, you can Google them too. It's however you want to do it. But the idea is you could do that and pinpoint certain areas and see what's sore, because you can actually get that lacrosse ball or that golf ball into a certain spot and you'd be like, oh, wow, that's really sore. If you work that area a little bit, you will find that that particular organ might feel better, especially if it's your stomach. Those are ones you can more see. Things like your thyroid, well, I don't know. I can't see my thyroid necessarily, so I don't know necessarily how it's working. But if you do look at the map, you'll see certain correlations, liver too. And in Chinese medicine, the liver is our stress organ. And so the more stressed that we are, oftentimes that liver point hurts. So kind of interesting stuff. In terms of the spine, this is where you'll want to focus. The spine is at the ball of the foot, where literally your toes attached to the ball of your foot. So kind of those little webs of your toe area, that padding, that's your spine, according to reflexology maps. And so that area I like to roll on a lot. I also like that because think of it this way. Remember how I was saying I do the little piggy wee all the way home to my patients with trying to move their toes? Yeah, this is the area that's locked up the most. Well, if you go back to reflexology, that's the spine. And so if your toes don't move, your spine can't move. That's not good. So oftentimes I will have people work that area. Now there is another secondary area that is for the spine. It's down the arch, so the medial side of the foot. And a lot of people have really high arches, or a lot of people have really flat and flattened arches. And that has to do with their structure or certain things that have happened in life. If they're overweight, sometimes your arches will fall with that, and pregnancy will do that to some folks too. And so if that arch is falling, you're going to be having some issues along that spine because your support network of tendons and ligaments are falling. That's not good. So I often have folks roll in between the heel and arch to the ball of the foot of the great toe. So literally from the heel to great toe. Another spot that I find hugely inflammatory or achy is the middle of the heel and a little bit forward from it. And that's the attachment of your plantar fascia. If you've ever had plantar fasciitis, which is inflammation of that tendon sheath there, it's no fun. It feels like your foot is burning in certain areas, and oftentimes we'll get bone spurs there. And that is so fun. And the reason we produce bone spurs is because we are literally stressing that tendon sheath so much that it provokes the body to produce more bone. So you definitely want to prevent that, because we can put bone spurs all over our body when we have tension on that particular area. So keep in mind that if you get all of your tendons and ligaments and muscles moving and they're not in that tight motion all the time, they're not stuck in flexion all the time and stuck in that adhesed, just locked up position, you're not going to be having tendencies towards bone spurs. One of the most common reasons that folks have surgeries for their shoulders, and in particular the rotator cuff, is because of bone spurs. Bone spurs get large and they start to tear tendons. Not fun. So nevertheless, you literally have your entire human body on the bottom of your foot. That's really cool. And you can work to release it with a lacrosse ball, a golf ball, or if you're feeling easy on yourself, to start off with that tennis ball. So how do you go about this? Well, literally, if you're using the lacrosse ball, you don't have to get fancy. I don't even recommend putting oil on your foot. Now, if you're going to have someone else work on rubbing your foot and massaging your foot, definitely put some oil on there. You want to start from the heel upwards. There's this nice motion in terms of relaxation kind of motion. And usually I'll go heel upwards to the ball of the foot, run along the top of the ball of the foot, and then work to open up. So a little massage to all of the toes. Now keep in mind that your toes have tendons that attach on the bottom aspect of them and the top aspect of them. And I love to get that moving. And so I kind of will... Okay, I grew up near Wisconsin. I do know how to milk a cow. So it's kind of like milking a cow. You just kind of rub your fingers, like wiggle them up, the toe, up, the toe from the attachment to the ball of the foot. So work on that. The other big thing is that you have muscles in between every single one of your long bones of your feet. You also do in between your hands, just a side note. But in between your toes, so you can work on those long bones. They're called the metatarsal bones. You can work and rock them back and forth a little bit. And so if you're giving someone else a massage, you can grab that foot on either side and just kind of rock it back and forth. That movement feels amazing. It also helps to open up that foot. Now, okay, so say someone's already got pretty active pain in their foot. Probably rocking it too hard would hurt, but go easy. Start from heel up to the ball of foot, wiggle those toes, and see how things change over time. I recommend 5-10 minutes every day doing this. I particularly do this for myself in the evening, and usually I'm using the lacrosse ball. I do have to keep it away from my dog because he's going to slime it up, and that's gross. And so if you do have a dog, keep a lacrosse ball to yourself and just do it when the dog's not around, because they definitely, if you have a golden retriever like mine, he tries to bite it from under my foot, and sometimes my foot gets a little bite, and now that negates the whole purpose. So keep your dogs away. Big lesson today, keep your dogs away from the balls that you use for trigger point releases. All right, another big thing. If you're going to be working on your foot, there's usually a huge component with foot issues and tight tendons of the calf. And typically what I recommend for folks is to work from the foot up to the ankle, up to the calf. Now, my next podcast after this one, I'm going to talk all about how to work on the ankle and how to work on the calf. So you've got to stay tuned for that. Start on your foot, then we'll get to moving up, because there are some seriously great trigger points in your calf and in your lower leg that can help to kind of just release all the way up that leg. And so you got to stay tuned, because this would be the longest podcast ever if I went through all of that. As you guys probably already know, I'm a little long-winded. Okay, so Definitely, moral of the story though, work on your foot first before you start to go up to the ankle and the calf, because you want to get your body ready for it. It's kind of like massaging your nerves too, getting the brain going, oh, okay, we're going to move the foot. That means we got to move the ankle, etc., etc. Okay, so if you don't have good shoes, you waste time massaging. That is the honest to goodness truth. I tell my patients this all the time. If you're wearing crappy shoes, if you're wearing just non-supportive shoes, you go to a massage therapist once, twice a month, or maybe you go weekly, you're wasting your time, because the massage therapist is not going to be able to undo the damage that having crappy shoes does to the rest of your body, if I haven't put that point in already. So one of the ways to know, like, do you have crappy shoes for yourself? Because maybe you have shoes that you're like, they're so comfortable, my feet don't hurt me, my back hurts me. So what the heck are you talking about, Dr. Krause? What is going on here? So you want to do a couple things first to assess your feet. First, my most favorite thing to do is to have someone lay flat down on a table and then just gently kind of roll their chin up and look at their feet. And if you can't do this, have someone else look at your feet for you. And what it is looking, do your feet turn in? Do your feet turn out? Does one foot turn out more than the other? What that shows you is the tightness that's happening in your glute and your low back, first and foremost. It's also going to show how much tightness is in your calf. Like, for example, if you're laying down flat and you're looking up at your toes and your toes are kind of splayed out, they're turned outwards, both of them, and it's even, your IT bands are tight, your glutes are tight. That could be the cause of your back pain. However, you're also going to have tight calves on the sides, and those tight calves on the sides attach into your ankles, and guess what? They cause trouble all the way down to your feet. Or, like I've already mentioned before, it usually comes from the feet, and so you need to look at what's going on in your shoes. And by that being said, if your feet are turning outwards, likely you're turning out when you walk. So get an old pair of shoes and look at the bottom of them. See if the outside of that shoe and the outside heel of that shoe is worn. Or if that's not the case, you might be doing something different while you're walking. So look at the bottom of that shoe and note that. See what's going on. See your wear pattern. And you want a shoe that you've been wearing for a while, something that you've had maybe over a year, and something that's kind of like your favorite shoe or your workout shoe, or a shoe that you go walking in particular. If you have a shoe that you've had over a year that you walk a lot in, go grab that shoe, because that's going to show your best wear pattern. And you might find that one wear pattern is different than the other. Okay, so I talked about the feet that kind of splay out. What about if one toe is turned out and the other one's straight up? Well, that means that that particular side is tighter than the other. So for example, when I lay flat with my face up, what I will see is that my right toe will my right toe turns out laterally a little bit more, and my left foot doesn't turn out as much. And so that's really a example of how my right leg is much tighter than my left leg. And when I look at my shoes, I will see more of a wear pattern on my right shoe versus my left. And in fact, I have wearing on the lateral right side heel, and some even onto the medial side heel of my shoe. So now, if you lay down and you notice that one toe turns in or both toes turn in, that is an adductor. So your muscles on the inside of your thighs and possibly even the inside of your calves are tighter. And those guys are pulling in your feet. And it could be because maybe you have some fallen arches, and perhaps maybe you've had an injury, or maybe you're a little overweight, or maybe you had pigeon toes as a kiddo. I have some patients that they learned to walk when they were, toddler age, and the docs kind of had them even in braces and things to try to prevent that pigeon toe. But then there's other folks that never got through that, and they just keep walking pigeon-toed one leg versus the other. Or there was an injury that they had, I always say on the playground or youngster, where that foot just started to track in a little bit. So that's a big deal. Another big deal is where your knees are at. Do you have bow legs, or do you have knock knees? So your knees are coming inward, or they're like going outward, the bow leg, cowboy leg kind of thing going on. That has a huge impact too on what happens all the way down to your feet. So now that you've taken a little look at what's going on with your feet when you lay down, and you've got that old pair of shoes and looked at the bottom of the shoes, make those notes, because those are things that are going to give you ideas as to, okay, what is going wrong when I walk? The next thing is to literally videotape yourself walking and watch yourself walk. You want to wear a pair of shorts because you want to see what your knees are doing. You want to see what your ankles are doing. You want to see what your feet are doing. So shorts and no socks. Take your shoes off. Go barefoot. and watch that. See how you walk. I have included at the end of this, not the end of this podcast, but the end of my show notes, a video done by a professor in Canada that I really like how he talks about the whole gait and your mechanism of walk. And he'll help you to kind of get the basics in terms of walking and assessing your walk. Now, say you're not into doing your own walking assessment. That's fine. Chiropractors will do it. Physical therapists will do it for you. Just check their websites and see who does gait analysis, GAIT analysis. It's really great to have someone, take a look at that. A lot of running stores will do it for folks too now in terms of watching them run and walk. Now, of course, let's put a disclaimer there. Some stores don't train their staff as well as others, so ask around, ask your friends in terms of who's really great at this. Now, there are physical therapists. There is a guy in Seattle that I really like in particular that actually watches people run and monitors how they run and helps to improve their gait by helping them with particular release techniques, which is really awesome. And I highly recommend it, getting someone in your area to help you with that, because if you want to run, and I don't think that everyone should be a marathon runner. I do think we should all be able to run to an extent. And the reason I mean that is because what if someone's trying to chase you? You need to get away from them. I joke, but for all intents and purposes, hey, we are a lot better at survival if we can run away from predators. Let's just put it that way. But also just for longevity, there's a lot of research in terms of being able to run just short distances. So if you can keep yourself running even just short distances, a block or two, that's going to help with your longevity. So that being said, there are some really, really great folks out there that can help you with running and monitoring your running. And I will put in the end of my show notes for all the local Seattle, Washington folks who my guy is. His name's Chris, and I'll put his details in there. But yeah, there are some really great folks out there that can help you. I don't know if the specialty shoe stores are going to be the best spot, but you might find someone who's an ex-marathon runner or someone who's been trained very well, who's a physical therapist, something of that nature that can help you. Now, that being said, you can do your own assessment just like Ed mentioned, but now the big thing is, what kind of shoes do you buy? How do you know what's good for you? Well, we have some really great resources in the US in terms of shoe options and shoe buying options. Nordstrom in particular. Yes, I am totally repping a big box company here, but the shoe folks at Nordstrom, I like to call them the shoe concierges, are bomb. These people are awesome. They have been trained well, and they know exactly how to measure your foot properly. They know exactly how to tell you if you have a high arch, flat arch, what, dress shoes, etc., are going to be the best for you. And that's awesome. And if you go midweek and not on the weekend, you'll get even better attention. So tidbit there, because the more attention they have and they're not juggling certain people, let's just put it this way, the more bored they are and they want to help you, that's when you want to go. I highly recommend like Wednesday at 11 a.m. That's the best time I've found to go to the store, because you just seem to get better attention. So there you have it. Now, you want to go and ask and kind of check things out, because not only having the big supportive clunky shoes, that's not the best for everyone, because if you're a runner or an athlete, there's certain types of shoes that are better for certain sports, like I've already mentioned, but there's also certain types of shoes that are better for people that have higher arches, flat arches, or regular arches. You don't want to judge a shoe by its color and how pretty it is. Believe me, I've tried that a million times. I'm like, oh, those are so pretty. I like the blue and the neon green. I want those shoes. I have to have them. And then I put them on, I try to run, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the worst shoe ever. So there are shoes that fit your body better, and those are the ones you want to kind of stay with. So that being said, get to either Nordstrom for just regular shoes, everyday shoes. I don't recommend Nordstrom necessarily for your running shoes. For running shoes, you want to go to a specialty running store. That is the way to go, because they can actually, some of the more advanced ones can put you on a treadmill or these little devices where they can see where your foot has the most pressure points. The other thing that you could do, ski boot stores. I know this sounds crazy, but they do the same thing to find out where your pressure points are. The best money I ever spent. And so this is a tidbit. If you like to ski, your boots can screw up your body just as much as your shoes can. If you like to ski and you have shoes that make boots that make your feet go numb, or that your feet get really cold and numb in there because they get cold, go to a ski boot outfitter, have them literally mold the boot to you and measure your foot in the whole 9 yards. It is, oh my gosh, best money well spent to do that, because that's another way you could get injured. So just a side note there. All right. So there's tons of resources out there, runningshoesguru.com, et cetera, et cetera. Just check all those different websites out, and they will help you with getting you started. And then I really do recommend finding a store, because you need someone that's hands-on. Buying something on the internet is difficult. So we do want to treat our feet really like royalty. Cushy, comfy, not tight, thumb space from end of the toes to the end of the shoe. Can you wiggle your toes in those shoes? Does it feel like your feet can breathe in there? Some of my favorites out there for dress shoes for ladies. Sorry guys, I only know Echo's ECCO as being a great one for guys. Cole Haan has some really great ones for guys from what I've heard from other colleagues in my industry. But for ladies, Aerosols, Bob's by Skechers, the Rain Dance moccasins. Oh my gosh, try those out, ladies. Those things are kind of amazing. Merrell's are very nice and supportive too. Now, these types of shoes are for folks that have an arch. Because they have a natural arch built into there. If you have flat feet, you might want to consider something called super feet. These are inserts that you can put into your shoe. And if you go to places like Nordstrom, whatnot, they'll help you out with that. But Aerosols, they make some cool ones now. They're not your grandma's shoes anymore. Same with Clarks too. I just don't use Clarks as much, just style. But there you go. So feet, back to the feet. Not shoes. I'm a lady. Can't you tell? I love my shoes. So one more thing. If you love high heels, and guys, if your lady loves high heels, or hey, if you like high heels, whatever, they're a big problem. They're so sexy. They're so amazing. You feel hot in them, but you need to roll your feet after that, and you need to roll your calves after that. And do not go from heels to flip-flops. Oh my God, that's so bad for your tendons. Wear like slippers or something. So just a little tidbit for me to save your calves and save your feet. But rolling your feet and calves during the day or after the day after heels, same thing with flip-flops. You want to roll with the lacrosse ball on the bottom of your feet after the flip-flops. Also consider your calves. I'll go into that in my next podcast as to how to do that. Your anterior shin, so that shin muscle there needs some serious love after flip-flops. That's just can't say enough about that. You got to do it, because otherwise that's where we end up with ankle issues and popping ankle tendons real fast. And that, from personal note there, I will tell you, when I did have my really bad ankle sprain last year in the summer, I was wearing a lot of flip-flops at that time, and I was being bad. I wasn't rolling. And I think that's really why, when I came down on my foot after attempting my handstand walk at that time, I think normally I wouldn't have even sprained my ankle. But because things were so tight and out of balance, I think that's what happened. And so injury prevention, absolutely huge. Big other thing is longevity. More your feet are movable, the more your feet are happy, the rest of you is going to be happy. Less pain you have, the more mobile you are. Huge, 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 huge. So another thing that I want you to think about before I sign off on today's podcast is looking at, if you do have foot pain, you want to kind of go, okay, what is happening up into my back? Where do I have issues that are going from my foot up to my back, or back down to feet? Honestly, they're all connected, so it's going to be the same darn thing. So if you have pain like on the inside of your calf and the back, and kind of the medial, like inside of your heel, that goes with lumbar vertebrae 4. So that being said, if you have the pain in your calf and heel, and you kind of poke back up by L4, so your lumbar vertebrae 4, and the way to find that is to put your hands on the top of your hips and slide your thumbs right around back. And where your thumbs hit when you hit the spine, that vertebrae just above your thumbs, that's L4. And so do some good massage in that area too, and work on medial calf and your heel. Now, what I'll also find sometimes is your back hurts, mid-back there, top of the hips, over, but you don't hurt in your calf and you don't hurt in your heel until you touch those areas with your hands or your lacrosse ball. So guess what? It's connected. So if you're gonna work on your low back pain, that's hands on the top of the hips and sliding those thumbs around, and you feel that pain back there, work on the medial side of your calf and your medial side of your heel. Now, another thing is that if you have pain on the outside of your calf, and you have pain that's on the outside and the back, and you have pain all along the bottom of your foot, that is your sacral nerve. So sacral vertebrae. So put your hands back on the top of your hips, slide your finger around, and then go underneath your thumbs there. That's L5, and then the next one down is S1. Rub that area and work on the outside of your calf and your bottom of your foot. The other biggie there is you want to get your fourth and fifth toe to move big time, as well as your second toe. Now that sounds weird, like why are we skipping our third? Don't skip your third, just do it. But the nerve runs differently in that case. So if your lower back hurts, so top of the hips and down kind of hurts, make sure that you're getting all your toes moving and the bottom of your foot moving. Work on that, and work on the outside and back of your calf. Now, if the middle to the middle side of your foot and your big toe hurts, you might be looking at pain from the top of the hips up in the low back. And so can work that out there, top of the hips and up in the low back, and then go to the inside there where the arch is, or if you don't have an arch, that flat area, work that really good. Get your big toe moving and see how you feel. Another biggie that some people have is that they hurt on the top of their foot. And this is your lumbar vertebrae 5 area. And so you can go back to your hips on the top, so hands on top of your hips, and work from where your thumbs come across to the spine and down in your back, and then work on getting that big toe moving. Just really work on that big toe area and see how you feel. And don't forget, do an assessment of your shoes, look and see where you're wearing your shoes, and then buy some new shoes. And in a couple months, wear those while walking, wear those if you run, and see what your wear pattern is. You might notice that you're changing things around, especially if you're noticing that your back pain's going down and you're feeling more mobile overall. All right, so you've survived this episode. Now, I want to give you a little tidbit in terms of where my resources are at. So if you go to my website at drjkrausend.com, you're going to be able to find the gait analysis video I was talking about, where there's an instructor from Canada giving you it's a 20 plus minute video, but it's really good. So that, plus you're also going to be able to find a foot and ankle mobility assessment video from Erosti Rehab. These folks are great in terms of their demo videos for mobility. There's also another foot and ankle mobility video and a just straight foot mobility video there for you to kind of see all the different ways that you can work to release your foot and ankle. You don't always have to do a lacrosse ball. One of the videos shows just pure movement. So there you have it. Check that out. I also put that reflexology map on there, just as I had mentioned before, and a little video of someone performing reflexology so that you can see what it looks like. And if you want to try it at home, by all means, go for it. There are plenty of places too around the US where you can do reflexology right in certain offices. Some folks are certified in it. So, hey, check it out, see what you can do. I've also put in a resource for best shoes for high arches. And the reason I put high arches in there is because most shoe companies kind of tout the pronator. And what pronator lingo really is in running terms is the folks that kind of turn their foot in when they run, but there's not as much out there for running on the sides of your feet. And so folks like me with really high arches, I wanted to throw that out there because sometimes it is harder to find shoes for high arches, folks, and that's runnerclick.com, and that's the best running shoes for high arches. So check out those resources if you are interested in trying to get rid of your pain, but also keep your feet more mobile so that you can be mobile for life. Sounds like an infomercial here, but hey, I've got to tell you, the more that I see in practice how locked up people's toes are, and I'm not talking about people who are 85 years old. I'm talking about people in their 30s with frozen toes, as I would call it. Not cool. You do not want that. You need your toes mobile. Think about all of the monkeys out there in the zoo. They have nice and mobile toes and fingers, and we want our toes mobile just as well because it's going to help us in the long run to be more agile, to get away if we need to run away from someone, and just really to enjoy life more because we're going to be pain-free. So take it or leave it there. This has been another episode of The Health Fix. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in to The Health Fix, the podcast all about taking control of your health, rebelling against aging, and having fun every day. A lot of patients ask me, do you think I'm aging too fast? So, I created an evaluation checklist for you to see for yourself. Plus, I created a resource guide to help you slow down the aging process right now. You can find it for free on my website, drjkrausnd.com. If you like this podcast, help get the word out to others by liking it and rating it. If you'd like more natural health tips and want to join our Facebook community where I interact daily, click on the Join Group button on our website at drjkrausnd.com.